Hello and welcome to MIP TV, and with me as always is Bob Cooke from the Manchester Institute for Psychotherapy, and we've got quite a different sort of book review tonight, haven't we, Bob?
We have. In fact, we're going to reverse roles, which is the first time. This is the 74th book I think we've reviewed, and most of them are transaction analysis books, and there's a few scattering existential books and books I've enjoyed reading. However, this one, a delightful occasion, I'm going to, as I say, I'm going to ask you the questions for once, because we're going to review your new book.
We are.
Congratulations, Rory Lees-Oakes.
Thank you very much.
This new book, which came out only 4 or 5 weeks ago, in fact, I think, isn't it, Rory? It's April the 19th.
Yeah.
About 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks, yeah.
Which I've jotted down.
Yeah, so hold it up like that.
Yeah, that's even better.
Even
Counselling Theory in Practice, A Student's Guide by Rory Lees-Oakes.
Yes.
And there's the picture of it. So let's get started. So Rory, tell me what was the inspiration behind this book? What was the real sort of driving force, the motivation for you writing a student's guide for counselling theory and practice?
Well, the motivation is that anyone who knows me will know, certainly people who've taught with me, and there'll be people who watch this who have taught with me, will know that I have one gear go when I teach. And anybody who's ever been in any of my classes will know that I try to teach above and beyond the curriculum, because in counselling courses, the curriculum is pretty tight, but there's gaps. Like with any education, there's gaps, and the book really was designed to fill those gaps in, so that students could read the book and kind of ask the questions that they're always asking. And I know they're always asking because I get all the questions in my mailbag on a regular basis. So I've answered all the questions I've been asked repeatedly throughout the last 16 years.
So the motivation and desire was really, by the sounds of it, to help students do well in their competencies, their different levels of evaluation and exams, and to sort of fill in the gaps which haven't really been perhaps taught extensively, or perhaps missed out in particular courses, or where students want to or have challenges in.
Yeah, I mean, I've done that with the YouTube channel and Counselling Tutor, which is the web page and resource that we use. And this is just another avenue, really, Bob, where people can, because people like reading. So yes, I mean, so would it help if I went through some of the chapters maybe and kind of? Yeah.
Start off that. I'll leave my further question in a minute.
Okay. Well, I mean, some of it is things, very basic things like choosing your course.
Okay.
It's amazing how complicated it is if you're coming into it with no concept whatsoever of counselling courses. And there's it literally is the Wild West out there. There's so much online that promises the earth. It's like, honestly, it's like Dodge City on the internet. And what I've tried to do, it really is, it feels like Gold Rush Klondike, where everybody's promising everything. But actually, we know there's certain routes into being a solid practitioner, and I outline those. So I tell people exactly what they need to look for,
Wonderful.
And avoiding online courses. There's loads of online courses out there.
So it sounds like that this chapter in this book is really giving people an insight into the competent courses that are around, and more important, the pitfalls and what to look out for in terms of, I won't say the dodgy courses, but courses which are not that wonderful, if you like.
Well, absolutely, Bob. I mean, the amount of people who do online diploma courses to find out that they're just not worth the paper they're written on. In terms of becoming a therapist, they may be very good as an adjunct to other work, great, but as a road to a therapist, non-starter.
So that sounds a really useful chapter for any counsellors to be, and it's it's a really good place to start the book, in fact. So what other chapters have you got there that you could tell us about?
Well, I talk about things like finding a placement.
Oh, well, that's a really good, now that is a really good subject, a good chapter. So how to find a placement.
Yeah, and how to do it properly. You know, I
Well, that's
think,
another story.
yeah, and what to look for, how to apply, what organisations are looking for when they take on somebody. You know, because a lot of people may not come from, you know, a kind of services background. I certainly didn't. You know, I came from a commercial background when I changed to become a therapist. So, you know, there's a lot of things I had to learn and learn really quickly. So part of that was how placements work, the kind of questions they might ask you, what's expected of you.
That's wonderful, because there's so many counselling courses and, you know, people who want placements, of course, that my fantasy would be that they'd often go in to the selection interviews fairly unprepared. So this would be a wonderful chapter. And the other thing about placements, of course, is that what the placements should do is offer, you know, reciprocal services back. I mean, in terms of perhaps training, perhaps some supervision, et cetera, et cetera. And also, and this, I think this is pivotal for really comprehensive placement providers, that they provide an assessment service. So they assess the clients, so they make sure they go right developmental level to the counsellors. Because the worst thing for a counsellor is to get a you know, a client which is beyond their developmental processes. So it's really important to have some thinking or knowledge about what is a competent placement provider and what to expect back from a placement provider.
Which I cover in another chapter called Making the Most of Your Placement, where I talk about how to make use of that valuable learning. People may be in there for 18 months, maybe 2 years. Valuable learning. It's not just turning up and counselling your client. There's so much more that you can learn. You can make contacts, you can meet other therapists, you can network, you can get a real sense of how other people work. It's the most valuable, one of the most valuable assets you can have right in practice.
That's right, Willie. I mean, you know, I've been doing the job 36 years now, and in my day, going back to 1985 when I started, we didn't have to do a placement. But one of the points about being a professional psychotherapist and starting off is this, and I don't think trainees and even, how can I say, even people who've been around quite a long time realize how a lone job it is. In other words, you go into you know, an office, or you go into your whatever your room is, and you may go see 5 or 6 clients and go home. So when you talk about networking, you know, I think is really important, this subject matter you're talking about. Networking. Yeah.
Definitely.
Good point.
Yeah, definitely.
So give us one more chapter then.
One more chapter. Well, I talk about, you know, getting confused with modalities. So I talk about the dodo bird effect and Saul Wigenstein and common factors. And I'm a great believer, and I don't know if it's something that you would kind of believe in, if that's the word I'm looking for, which I don't think it is. But is that I think that if you choose a modality, it has to be personally meaningful for you. I'm not a great believer in just going to and training as a therapy and it not having some kind of personal connection with you, either your own story, your own history, or the way your outlook on the world. Because I think that being a therapist is a lot more than applying knowledge or techniques. It's about the lived experience of what that is.
You know, I'm in total agreement with you, and so the statistics would show. Just a personal bit here. I went into therapy in 1984 with a transactional analyst psychotherapist. Which psychotherapy did I choose to train in?
Yes.
Lo and behold, transactional analysis.
Yeah.
Because I had an investment, a passion, I wanted to give back to the community, and I had a methodology that meant a lot to myself personally. And 36 years ago, it was the same. Now we are 36 years later, and I train people to be transactional analysts. And I think it comes from that motivation, that passion, that personal identification. So I'm in complete agreement with you.
Yeah. And, as I say, for me, I remember reading A Way of Being by Carl Rogers.
Oh,
It blew me away.
yeah,
It
yeah, yeah. So you had a
completely blew me away on a number of levels, not just a therapeutic level, but a personally political level. And I think that cemented my love of the humanistic theory. And I also talk about things like, there's so much in here. Reviewing client progress, something again, which is not sometimes taught to any great depth. So the 6-week review, trying to, certainly in the person-centered world, and certainly when you're using time-limited therapy, as a lot of placement students do, they get 6, 12, maybe 18 sessions, then having a review is really useful just to see where the client is.
No, I agree with you. Just one thing, because not everybody might understand the comment you made. So I do, but tell me again, what is the dodo concept you talked about there?
Well, if anybody who's read Alice in Wonderland will know that Alice went down the rabbit hole, and she ended up in this kind of very strange world, met all these wonderful creatures. And one of them was the dodo bird. And the dodo bird had the dodo bird. And the dodo bird said, "Ooh, we must have a race. All the animals have a race." And eventually everybody kind of came in and they said, right, everybody must have prizes. And it's the notion, it's sometimes referred to as common factors, that actually the research has shown time and again that with very few exceptions, the therapeutic relationship is the best arbiter of positive outcomes for clients, not the modality. And this was just recently, well, not so recently, but a few years ago, a guy called John Norcross from Scranton in Pennsylvania did a massive, and it was one of the biggest pieces of research ever. It was done in two tranches, biggest piece of research ever done across a wide range of disciplines. And the outcomes were that actually it was the relationship which was the arbiter of positive outcomes, with few exceptions, and he did put what the exceptions were. So yes, the modality is important, but the therapeutic alliance is just crucial.
No, absolutely crucial, and all research, and that research that you quoted there was a very big research, and I think it was in the middle 90s, and in fact became the research that heralded the relational turn, if you like, a term coined in the late 1990s. I think it's safe to say that most disciplines probably are, if they don't accept that, they're working towards a relational basis. So it sounds a wonderful book. So if you had to have say one message to students that you want students to get out from reading this book, what would that be then? What's the most important thing that you'd like the students to get from reading this book?
I think just to understand it's the little things that make a difference. It's the little things. It's not, the theories can seem so big, the skills can seem so over kind of arching. The personal and process groups can be overwhelming, but actually to be a competent therapist, it's the detail that sometimes we have to think about. And that's what's in this book. I guess if I want to coin a bit of a nifty phrase here, Bob, I guess my book is the cement between the bricks of a training course.
The cement between the bricks of a training course. What a wonderful metaphor and a wonderful message. And it reminds me of a DVD. Was it a DVD or a video that came out about 15 years ago? So probably a video in those days. And it was called What About Bob? Now, it's not taken from I know my name's Bob, but it's not taken from that. But it has two wonderful actors, two of my favorite actors in it. Richard Dreyfuss, who played the part of an American psychiatrist, and Bill Murray, who played the part of quite a disturbed client. And to cut a long story short, the psychiatrist had published a recent book, and it was called Baby Steps. And the idea behind this book, Baby Steps, is one, exactly what you've just said, the small details, and then when you look back, you've taken a big step. And I really agree with that. So it sounds a wonderful book anyway, per se. I'm going to read it. Wonderful students for people coming into the world of counselling and therapy. I can only congratulate you. So well done, Will.
Thank you very much, and we'll put a link in the bar below. rorysnewbook.com. So you click on that, it will take you through, and it will take you to where you can buy it and show you some of the reviews. The reviews have been very positive. I think at the date this was made, we've had something like 25-star reviews already.
Oh, well done, and congratulations again.
Thank you very much, Bob. Thank you.
Your pleasure. Bye-bye.